High Commander Varrex strode onto the crystalline platform of the Grand Assembly Chamber, his iridescent ceremonial armor catching the light from the three suns of Centauri Prime. The gathered representatives of the Galactic Council, all 217 species, fell into an expectant hush. A smile played across his four-mandible face as he prepared to deliver what he considered the greatest comedy presentation of the cycle. "Most esteemed members of the Galactic Council," Varrex announced, his voice resonating through the chamber with carefully measured condescension. "Today I bring you news that will simultaneously amuse and concern you. Our latest reconnaissance of the primitive species known as humans has revealed something so backwards, so utterly laughable, that I almost requested our xenoanthropologists to verify we hadn't somehow time-traveled to their Stone Age." A ripple of chitters and warbles, the Council's equivalent of polite laughter, echoed through the vast chamber. Varrex raised his upper appendages for silence, his expression growing even more smug. "Behold," he commanded, activating the holographic display. Their so-called advanced battle armor. The image of a human soldier in full combat gear materialized above the platform. Scattered bursts of genuine laughter erupted from the assembly as they took in the sight. Yes, Varrex continued, barely containing his own amusement. "You see correctly. These creatures still rely on solid matter for protection. Primitive composites of metal and ceramics, when every spacefaring race knows that energy-based defensive systems are the only viable option in modern combat." Supreme Counselor Nexar leaned forward, her crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. "You mean to tell us they have achieved faster than light travel, yet they still use physical barriers for defense?" "Precisely," Supreme Counselor Varrex exclaimed, triggering another display showing a comparison between human armor and the standard-issue galactic plasma shield. "While we harness the power of contained plasma fields, generating protective barriers that can deflect any energy weapon, these humans waddle around in shells like primitive crustaceans." The chamber erupted in earnest laughter now. Several council members had to engage their emotional dampeners to maintain decorum. "But surely," called out Ambassador Zix from the upper tiers, "they must have some redeeming technological achievements." Varrex's facial ridges rippled in amusement. "They do possess some basic grasp of particle physics and rudimentary AI systems. However, their insistence on using physical armor is just the beginning of their technological inadequacies. Observe their primary weapon systems." The hologram shifted to display various human military vehicles and weapons. Each new image provoked fresh waves of laughter from the assembly. "In conclusion," Varrex declared, his voice dripping with mock gravity, "I recommend we classify Earth as a Category 3 civilization, technically spacefaring, but clearly lacking the fundamental understanding of modern combat principles. Their continued use of physical armor alone demonstrates their profound technological immaturity." As the council members continued their amused discussions, none noticed the slight frown on the face of Junior Observer Kress, who had actually visited Earth. She alone remained silent, remembering the curious glint in the eyes of the human generals she had met, and wondering if perhaps they were all missing something vital about these supposedly primitive defenders. Scout Captain Lyra Nexus hovered her stealth vessel above the sprawling military complex in what the humans called Nevada. Her multi-spectrum scanners swept across the facility, recording every detail of the training exercises below. The corners of her bioluminescent eyes crinkled with barely suppressed laughter as she watched the humans lumber about in their clunky armor suits. Third observation cycle complete, she dictated into her report terminal. "These humans continue to demonstrate an almost endearing dedication to their outdated combat methodology. Current exercise appears to be focused on urban warfare scenarios." Below, a squad of human soldiers moved through a mock-up city block. Their movements were precise, coordinated, but to Lyra's enhanced vision, they might as well have been wearing giant target markers. Every piece of their armor showed up clear as day on her thermal imaging. "Amusing note," she added, switching to a more informal tone. "Their armor design actually seems to be getting thicker. Rather than advancing toward energy shielding, they're simply adding more layers of physical material. It's like watching children stack blocks to build a fort." Her second-in-command, Observer Rix, monitored the sensor feeds with professional detachment. "Captain, should we perhaps conduct closer scans of their armor composition? The energy readings are somewhat unusual." Lyra waved 3 of her sensory tendrils dismissively. Unnecessary. High Command already has a complete analysis of their metallurgical capabilities. Nothing but primitive composites and some basic reactive elements. Hardly worth the quantum processing power to analyze further. She zoomed her viewing field onto a particular group of soldiers testing what appeared to be a new armor variant. The bulky suits gleamed dully under the desert sun, their surface decorated with what her cultural database identified as camouflage patterns. How quaint, she thought, when modern combat sensors made visual concealment utterly pointless. Initiating final scan sequence, Lyra announced, charging up her ship's primary sensor array. Though I doubt we'll find anything more interesting then. Wait, she paused, frowned at a peculiar reading. Rix, are you seeing this energy signature? Affirmative, Captain. It appears to be some sort of, well, I'm not entirely sure what it is. Lyra studied the readout for a moment longer, then shrugged her shoulder membranes. Probably just interference from their primitive power systems. Noted in the appendix and mark it low priority, she began composing her final report to High Command. Inclusive evidence supports initial assessment. Human armor technology remains firmly rooted in physical material defense. No signs of energy shield development or quantum barrier research. Their entire defensive doctrine appears to revolve around simply making their armor thicker and adding more layers of composite materials. She allowed herself a small trill of amusement before continuing. Recommendation: proceed with planned combat evaluation. Their armor will provide approximately 0 effective protection against our plasma-based weapon systems. Anticipate complete tactical superiority in any engagement scenario. As Lyra's ship shimmered and rose into the upper atmosphere, down below, Lieutenant Maria Torres watched the strange distortion in the sky through her armor's advanced sensor suite. She spoke quietly into her comm system. Control, Whiskey 7. Unknown contact observed at bearing 270, confirming successful test of the new passive scanning system. They took the bait, exactly as predicted. But Lyra was already too far away to detect the lieutenant's transmission, her mind filled with visions of the commendation she would receive for her thoroughly detailed, if completely misguided, intelligence report. Strike Leader Crixus stood at the helm of his assault craft, mandibles clicking in anticipation as his strike team descended toward the human military facility. Their mission was simple: a quick raid to demonstrate the superiority of galactic weaponry against human defenses. Based on Scout Captain Lyra's intelligence, they expected minimal resistance. Strike team, weapons hot, he commanded, his voice thick with confidence. Remember, 1 shot should be sufficient. Their primitive armor offers no protection against our plasma weapons. The assault craft's cloaking field rippled as they approached their target. Below, the human facility appeared dormant in the pre-dawn darkness. Too easy, Crixus thought. The first sign that something was wrong came when proximity alarms suddenly screamed across all frequencies. Commander Maya Rodriguez and her Special Forces unit had been waiting, their armor's signature masked by technology that, according to all galactic intel, humans shouldn't possess. Good morning, visitors. Maya's voice crackled across their command frequency, causing Crixus to jolt in surprise. Welcome to Earth. We've been expecting you. The night erupted into chaos. Human soldiers in their supposedly primitive armor emerged from concealed positions, moving with impossible speed and precision. Crixus watched in horror as his first volley of plasma fire splashed harmlessly against the dull surface of their armor suits. Impossible, he screeched into the command channel. Increase power to maximum. Their armor should be melting. Commander Rodriguez's voice came again, almost playful this time. You know, for an advanced species, you're surprisingly predictable. Did it never occur to you to wonder why we stuck with physical armor? A human soldier, armor moving as smoothly as liquid metal, vaulted over a barrier and engaged one of Crixus's warriors in close combat. The alien's plasma blade sparked and fizzled against the human's armor, while the human's counterattack sent the warrior flying. Pull back, Crixus ordered, his confidence shattered. Regroup and wait, what's happening to our weapons? The human armor wasn't just resistant to their attacks, it was somehow absorbing the plasma energy. With each hit, the armor's surface rippled and shifted, patterns of light dancing across its surface like liquid mercury. Maya's squad moved in perfect coordination, their armor systems clearly communicating and adapting as one. See, that's the thing about humans, she explained, almost conversationally, as her team systematically dismantled the alien strike force. We don't abandon useful technology just because something new comes along. We improve it, combine it, make it better. Crixus watched in mounting horror as a human soldier took a direct hit from a heavy plasma cannon. Instead of vaporizing, the armor absorbed the blast and redirected the energy through what appeared to be microscopic channeling systems across its surface. Quantum-enhanced metamaterials, Maya continued, her armor deflecting another blast while she casually approached Crixus's position. Nano-reactive surface layers, physical armor infused with energy redistribution systems. Why choose between solid and energy-based defenses when you can have both? The alien strike team's formation had completely collapsed. Their weapons, optimized for overwhelming energy shields, proved almost useless against armor that could absorb and redistribute their attacks. "Fall back," Crixus screamed, his remaining warriors scrambling for their transport. "Full retreat. Send word to High Command, the humans, they're not. This isn't." As the alien forces fled in disarray, Commander Rodriguez watched through her armor's advanced sensor suite. She tapped her comm link. "Control, this is Razor 1. First contact scenario complete." The enemy took the bait completely. Their entire combat doctrine is based on overwhelming energy shields. They never considered we might develop something better. She paused, looking at the data streaming across her HUD showing the successful capture of detailed scans of alien weapon signatures. "Tell RD they were right. The aliens' plasma weapons are exactly what we need to power the next generation of our armor systems. Sometimes the best defense isn't just a good offense. It's letting your enemy's offense become your defense." War scientist Crix Thorax hurled the testing apparatus across his laboratory, sending junior researchers scattering. The results on his display screen remained stubbornly unchanged, mocking his understanding of combat physics. "Run the tests again," he bellowed, multiple arms gesturing at the captured piece of human armor suspended in the quantum containment field. "These readings cannot be accurate. They violate every principle of modern defense technology." Junior Officer Venna watched from her observation post, recording every outburst for her private log. The scientist's denial was becoming dangerous, but his reputation made him untouchable. She turned to her colleague, Officer Zyro, and whispered, "How long do you think before High Command realizes we're dealing with something completely new here?" Crix activated another battery of scanning beams, his facial plates contorted in frustration. The human armor sample hung there, deceptively simple in appearance, its surface occasionally rippling like disturbed water, despite being allegedly solid. "Look at this," he shouted, pointing at the readouts. "The molecular structure is simultaneously rigid and fluid. The energy absorption rates exceed our theoretical maximums. And this layering system? It's like they took everything we know about defensive technology and decided to do the exact opposite." A research assistant tentatively approached with fresh data tablets. "Sir, we've completed the impact tests. The armor doesn't just stop our plasma weapons, it seems to feed on them." Crix snatched the tablets, his eyes darting across the results. "Nonsense. Completely impossible. They're savages who still use projectile weapons. They can't possibly have developed technology that surpasses our understanding of energy dynamics." Sir Venna interjected, stepping forward despite protocol. "Perhaps we should consider that our assumptions about human technological capabilities were flawed." The war scientist spun to face her, all four eyes blazing. "Flawed? Listen, Junior Officer, I have been studying combat systems for longer than your species has been part of the Galactic Council. These humans barely understand basic plasma containment. Their armor technology should be nothing more than crude metal plates." "Then how do you explain these results?" Officer Zyro joined in, displaying combat footage from the first skirmish. The video showed human armor not only withstanding direct plasma hits but seemingly growing stronger with each impact. "Tricks. Sensor malfunctions. Anything but what you're suggesting." Crix turned back to the armor sample, initiating another scan sequence. "The basic laws of physics cannot simply be ignored because some primitive species decided to be stubborn about their outdated technology." The sample in the containment field pulsed slightly, its surface shifting in patterns that seemed to follow the scan's energy signature. Another set of readings appeared on the main display, and this time, even Crix fell silent for a moment. "Sir," a senior researcher said quietly, "we're detecting quantum-level responses to our scans. The armor appears to be learning." Venna and Zyro exchanged alarmed looks. "Learning armor? The implications were staggering. While Crix descended into another round of denial and demands for equipment recalibration, the junior officers quietly began drafting their own report to high command. "They're going to ignore us," Zyro noted grimly as they worked. "Too many reputations are staked on human inferiority." Venna nodded, adding her security clearance to the report. "Maybe. But when the full invasion force arrives, they'll wish they'd listened. These humans, they've done something extraordinary here. They've created armor that doesn't just protect. It evolves." Fleet Admiral Zenna stood before the massive holographic display of Earth, her tentacle-like appendages dancing across control surfaces as she finalized the invasion plan. Around her, the command center of the flagship Eternal Victory hummed with activity as her officers prepared for what they all assumed would be a swift and decisive victory. "The humans will never expect an attack of this magnitude," she declared, addressing her assembled command staff. 5,000 ships, each carrying our most advanced plasma weapons. Their primitive armor will vaporize under such overwhelming force." Behind her, the junior officer's report about the captured armor's unusual properties remained unopened on her terminal. She had dismissed it without reading, just as she had dismissed the concerns raised about the first skirmish's unexpected outcome. "Deploy the fleet in standard conquest formation," she commanded. "Concentrate fire on their major military installations. Remember, their armor can't possibly withstand sustained plasma bombardment. Simple physics makes that impossible." Meanwhile, on Earth, Colonel James Wright stood in the underground command center of Project Prometheus, watching his own tactical displays with quiet confidence. The walls around him were lined with screens showing real-time data from thousands of armor suits across the globe, each one learning, adapting, evolving with every second of combat data. "Status report," he called out, his voice calm and steady. Lieutenant Banks responded from her station. "All adaptive response units are green, sir. The armor's collective neural network is processing the data from the first skirmish. Energy absorption capabilities have increased by 47% just from that brief encounter." Wright nodded, studying the incoming sensor data showing the massive alien fleet moving into position. "They still think we're wearing glorified metal boxes. How's the integration of their plasma weapon signatures coming along?" "Better than expected," Sir Banks replied, bringing up a detailed analysis. "Each suit in the network has been updated with the exact frequency patterns of their weapons. The absorption matrices are primed and ready. The more they shoot at us, the stronger we become." Wright finished, allowing himself a small smile. "Status of Operation Thunderstorm." "All units in position, sir. Commander Rodriguez's team has finished deploying the last of the enhanced armor suits to our frontline forces. The aliens are positioning exactly where we predicted they would." Wright touched the surface of his tactical table, bringing up a final status review of Earth's defenses. The aliens' ships were arranging themselves in textbook invasion patterns, completely unaware that every aspect of their strategy had been anticipated and countered. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Hold positions and maintain radio silence. Let them think their initial strikes are having an effect. The longer they stay committed to their assumptions about our armor, the better this works for us." As both sides completed their preparations, the fundamental difference in their approaches couldn't have been clearer. One side was about to learn the hard way that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you've already dismissed as primitive. The sky above Earth erupted in a dazzling display of plasma fire as 5,000 alien ships launched their opening salvo. Fleet Admiral Zenna watched with satisfaction as the massive energy barrage descended toward the planet's surface, certain that no physical armor could withstand such overwhelming force. "First wave impact in 3, 2, 1, her tactical officer announced. "Direct hits on all primary targets." But as the plasma storms cleared, Zenna's satisfaction turned to disbelief. The human defensive lines remained intact. More than intact, their armor seemed to be glowing with absorbed energy, patterns of light racing across their surfaces like lightning beneath dark waters. "Impossible," she roared. "Launch the second wave. Maximum power to all weapons." On the ground, Colonel Wright's voice came across all command channels, clear and confident. "All units, Operation Thunderstorm is now active. Show them what human ingenuity really looks like." The alien fleet's second barrage never reached its targets. Instead, the human armor began releasing its stored energy in precisely calibrated pulses. Each suit acted as part of a vast network, combining their absorbed power into focused beams that sliced through the alien ship's energy shields as if they weren't there. "How are they doing this?" Xena demanded, watching in horror as dozens of her ships began falling from the sky. "Their armor, it's not just defending anymore. No, this cannot be happening." Commander Rodriguez's voice cut across all frequencies, addressing the alien fleet. "You know what your biggest mistake was? Thinking that armor could only be defensive. We humans have a long history of turning our shields into swords." The battle devolved into chaos as the alien forces struggled to adapt. Their plasma weapons, designed to overwhelm energy shields, proved worse than useless against human armor that actually grew stronger with each hit. The more they fired, the more power they fed into humanity's defensive network. "Pull back the fleet," Xena ordered, but it was too late. Human soldiers were using their powered armor to launch themselves into the sky, leaping impossible distances to board the lower flying ships. Their armor shrugged off every weapon brought to bear against them, while absorbing and redirecting energy with devastating precision. Lieutenant Banks' voice crackled across the human command network. "Sir, the armor network is reporting exponential gains in energy absorption and redistribution. Each suit is learning from every hit, sharing data across the entire system. They're literally making us stronger by trying to kill us." Wright watched the tactical display as alien ships began falling in greater numbers. Status of the neural network integration. "Beyond our highest projections, sir. The suits aren't just talking to each other anymore, they're predicting attack patterns, adapting in real time. It's like they've become a single, evolving organism." Across the battlefield, human armor continued to demonstrate capabilities that defied alien understanding. Suits working in concert created energy fields that redirected plasma fire back at the attacking ships. Others formed impromptu networks to launch devastating counterattacks, transforming absorbed energy into weapons more powerful than anything in the alien arsenal. "This is Fleet Admiral Xena," her increasingly desperate voice broadcast across all channels. "How is this possible? Your armor was primitive, physical. You couldn't possibly." "That's human innovation for you," Rodriguez replied, her armor glowing with stored energy as she led another boarding action. "We saw two paths and asked, why choose? Physical armor infused with quantum technology, network neural systems that learn and adapt, metamaterials that grow stronger under attack. While you were laughing at our primitive technology, we were perfecting it." The alien fleet's formation had completely broken down. Ships were either retreating or being systematically disabled by human forces whose capabilities seemed to be growing by the minute. Every blast of plasma energy, every attempted strike, only served to make Earth's defenders stronger. On his command display, Wright watched the battle's conclusion becoming inevitable. "Send word to all commands. The armor network has achieved full synchronization. Execute final phase." Across the globe, thousands of armor suits began pulsing in perfect unison. The energy they had absorbed throughout the battle synchronized into a single, overwhelming wave that swept through the alien fleet like a divine wind, overwhelming their shields and leaving their ships dead in space. The battle that was supposed to demonstrate human weakness instead revealed the true power of their supposedly primitive armor. In trying to crush humanity's defenses, the alien fleet had only succeeded in proving why those defenses had evolved to become the most formidable in the known galaxy. Lieutenant Nova stood in the wreckage of their flagship's main research lab, surrounded by scattered data tablets and destroyed equipment. Her hands trembled as she reviewed the combat footage for the 100th time, watching human armor not just withstanding their attacks, but evolving with each blast. "They played us perfectly," she whispered, piecing together the truth that her superiors had been too proud to see. "Every scout report, every demonstration, every bit of intel we gathered. They showed us exactly what they wanted us to see." The emergency council meeting on the secondary command ship had devolved into chaos. High-ranking officers were shouting over each other, their previous confidence shattered by the devastating defeat they'd just suffered. "We must launch another attack," Grand Marshal Azirek demanded, pounding his fist on the conference table. "Bring in the planet crackers. Overwhelm them with sheer firepower." Nova's voice cut through the noise, quiet but firm. "That would be suicide, sir. Their armor doesn't just protect them, it feeds on our attacks. Every weapon we fire makes them stronger." "Silence, Lieutenant. You forget your place. No, sir. I remember my duty. She activated the holographic display, showing detailed analysis of the battle. Look at these energy absorption rates. The more we attacked, the more powerful their armor became. It's not just technology, it's an entirely new approach to warfare. Admiral Zena, her usual commanding presence diminished by defeat, studied the data with growing horror. How did we miss this? How did we not see? Because we were too busy laughing, Nova replied, pulling up the original reconnaissance reports. We saw physical armor and assumed primitive technology. We never asked why an intelligent species would stick with something we considered obsolete. The gathered commanders watched in silence as she displayed the battle footage alongside her analysis. The human armor's capabilities were undeniable. What they had dismissed as primitive was actually revolutionary, a perfect fusion of physical and energy-based defense systems. Their armor isn't just protective gear, Nova explained. It's a networked, adaptive system. Each suit learns from every attack, shares that information instantly across their entire defense network. They turned our own weapons against us in the most elegant way possible. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their entire combat doctrine, based on overwhelming energy shields with plasma weapons, was worse than useless against an enemy who could absorb and redirect that energy. We have to rethink everything, Nova concluded. They weren't stuck in the past. They were building the future while we mocked their dedication to physical armor. And now she gestured to the screens showing their crippled fleet. Now they've proven that sometimes the best way forward is to perfect the basics instead of abandoning them. The remaining alien fleet hung in Earth's orbit like wounded predators, their weapons powered down, their once mighty shields flickering weakly. Below them, the human defense network pulsed with stored energy, every suit of armor ready to unleash another devastating counterattack. High Commander Varrex, summoned from the Galactic Council to handle the crisis, faced the holographic projection of Colonel Wright with none of his former arrogance. Your demonstration has been most enlightening, Colonel. We gravely underestimated humanity's capabilities. That was rather the point, Wright replied, his armor shifting with subtle patterns of absorbed energy. Sometimes the best defense is letting your enemy think they know all your secrets. Lieutenant Nova stepped forward, her analysis having earned her an unprecedented promotion to Chief Military Advisor. Your armor technology, it's revolutionary. The perfect fusion of physical and energy-based systems. You've achieved something we thought impossible. Necessity breeds innovation, Commander Rodriguez added, her suit synchronized with thousands of others in a display of unified power. While you focused on pure energy shields, we kept asking questions. Why not both? Why not better? Every mockery, every dismissal just drove us to push harder. Then Varrex did something unprecedented in galactic history. He bowed. The Galactic Council formally recognizes humanity's technological supremacy in defensive systems. We would request an exchange of knowledge. Wright smiled. Funny you should mention that. We have a proposal. Your plasma weapons technology combined with our armor innovations. Imagine what we could accomplish together instead of against each other. Nova's eyes widened as she understood. You planned this from the start. The battle, the demonstration of your capabilities. Sometimes, Wright replied, the best way to make friends is to show them exactly why they don't want you as an enemy. Now, shall we discuss terms? We have some fascinating ideas about incorporating your plasma technology into our next generation of armor systems. As the diplomatic discussions began, the human armor network continued its quiet evolution, each suit learning, growing, adapting. Humanity had not just won a battle, they had changed the fundamental understanding of defensive technology across the galaxy. And they did it all while wearing what their enemies had dismissed as primitive armor.